guys, and welcome back to Couch Critics. I'm Lamia.
And I'm Ruby, and today we're reviewing A Beautiful Boy.
Yes, it's the movie adaptation of David Sheff's book, Beautiful Boy.
Yes.
It's the story of his son who goes through addiction, and it's also his story he's a father who deals with the repercussions of his son's disease.
Yes, and it's a movie where the main actors are Steve Carell and Timothée Chalamet.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge fan of Steve Carell, but I've never seen him in a role like this except maybe in The Big Short, but that's it. Like, I've never seen him in a lead role of a serious movie because I know him so much from like The Office and Crazy Stupid Love, so mainly from comedy.
Yeah.
It was so nice to see this range in this movie, and I loved it. So yeah, how did you hear about the movie and how?
I heard about it when I picked up this book very randomly from a thrift store, and I read it, looked it up, saw that a movie was coming out, and it was like years ago, 4 years ago maybe, and Timothée Chalamet was in it, and back at that time, Timothée has just done Call Me by Your Name, maybe Hot Summer Nights, but he wasn't like as famous as he is right now. So like the hype about him was just starting, so everyone was going to see this movie. But I feel like the hype about Beautiful Boy like went down very quickly. Like people didn't care about this movie as much as they did with other Timothée Chalamet movie. But to me, this is one of my favorite Timothée performances.
Yes, after watching it, and I just recently watched it today. Although I had heard about it many times, it always pops up in my like Instagram movie fanatic pages. Like, it's a well-known movie and it's such a beautiful masterpiece. But yeah, I think as you said, it's one of his best performances, and I feel like this and Call Me by Your Name really justify how Timothée became the actor he is today. I think his delivery was incredible. And yes, I'm tired of seeing him in every movie, but when I see his cinematography and I see how he got there, I kind of start understanding more how he deserves to be in the roles he's getting. So yeah.
I don't know if you had the same feeling as me when you watched the movie, but when I read the book and when I watched the movie, the thing that I felt the most was tiredness.
Yes.
I felt so, like, whenever I felt like things were going in a good direction, things would break.
Yeah.
And, like, David Sheff's life. And I can imagine what the family of people who are addicted to drugs go through. And I find it really interesting to see this movie from the family's perspective, because we always have movies about the drug addict's perspective, and you just see how the drugs not only affect the person that uses it, but it's this venom that is contagious and that ruins everything on its way. And by the way, there is also a book called Tweak, and it's actually the son's book. I bought it, but I couldn't read it because like the book that was written by the father broke my heart, and like Tweak sits in my bookshelf for it's been sitting there for years, and I'm not gonna read it. But yeah, if you want to check it out.
I can't even imagine how heartbreaking it is, but also I would be curious to read it because I feel like people who are drug addicts or anybody who experiments with drugs have like such a different perspective of the world. I don't know, from the movie you kind of see the characters speaking how it's just better than anything else, and I feel like I love this movie because it can be like it is described as better as anything else he ever experimented, but it also shows you how bad it is for the person and the negative. So it's a beautiful cautionary tale. It's a beautiful, like, cathartic story to just make people aware of um, all of these elements that can literally ruin somebody's life. And
also, I love the fact that Nick isn't your typical drug addict. Like, it's not the person that you imagine when you imagine people who are addicted. He's a golden boy who comes from a good family, had a great education, didn't have any issues with
Yeah.
his family, doesn't have anything wrong going on with him. He has a bright future that's ahead of him, and somehow he gets addicted to drugs, and his life is ruined, and he's
Yeah.
back and forth going to rehab, and
Yeah.
he's stealing from his parents, and it just shows that it could literally happen to anyone.
Exactly. And I also, I loved that. I loved what you just said, because through the whole movie, I tried to look at Steve Carell's reaction. And every time I would see how he would react to the situation, I just would sit back and ask myself, like, is there a better way to have done it? And I don't think there was. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to deal with this situation, but I really feel like the character played by Steve, the father, was so honest, and it had such pure intentions, and it was really, I personally don't think there could have been any other solution to this whole situation. And I was also in awe of Steve's wife, who's
Yeah. Was she in
Nick.
The Office?
Actually, his actual wife, like not his actual, but like Nick's mother, was also in The Office.
Okay.
And she
I haven't
played,
watched The Office, but
Yeah.
that's what I heard.
yeah, and she played Steve's love interest in the movie, so in the TV show. So during the whole movie, when I realized that she actually played the role of the wife, I'm like, what if this is the continuity of The Office? What if this is what happens after The Office? And it really takes a dark turn. But yeah, I felt it was a very fun cast. But also, I want to talk about Steve's second wife, who I feel like during the whole movie she treated Nick as her own son, and I loved it. Like, we see her, how after she gave birth, how she took in Nick, except towards the end where she was just tired. And
Yeah.
I just think, I honestly, if we were to talk about the acting, I feel like it was so well delivered. Even the soundtrack, there were a lot of great songs in the movie, but also I feel like Silence was also part of the soundtrack, and it was so well placed. I just felt it was incredible. So
there were so many beautiful monologues in this movie, and I also agree with you when it comes to the silences. These monologues usually were delivered in silence. There wasn't any background music when these monologues were delivered, and they were just so raw, so heartbreaking. And I think these are the scenes that keeps popping up on our feeds, the movie pages on Instagram and TikTok. And it's so cool to see that, like, years after this movie comes out, those scenes are still like as poignant and as impactful as they were back when the movie came out. And I'm thinking about this scene where Steve and Timothée are in this diner, and Steve asks Nick, if he still uses, and Nick is obviously high, but he tries to hide it, and he goes like, "This is not." Steve goes, "This is not you," and it's just so heartbreaking to see that the dad is just like trying to find his son when his son is standing in front of him, but his son is so hidden in the shadows of the person that's in front of him. And
I love that scene. It's the one that made me want to watch this movie. And I have a small anecdote to actually tell. Back in high school, we had to do community work. It was forced to graduate. They wanted us to do it at school. So my friends and I, we actually picked to go to a rehab for young men, and we had the opportunity. Some of them were generous enough to share their stories with us, and during this whole movie, I just kept remembering those stories, and it's crazy how true and well delivered it is. Because I remember one of them told us that, when you're addicted and you really need to use, like, you don't care how you're gonna get the drugs or anything. You're gonna steal from your neighbors, you're gonna steal from your family, and it's literally what happened. In the movie, we have a scene where Nick steals money from his younger brother, who's like his younger sibling, and it's $8, and you see how he gets upset when his father asks him about it. And I really had so much respect for Tim after watching this movie, because the range, the way he just flips, like he goes from having a regular conversation with his father, and as soon as he's triggered, he just gets so mad, and he's like, no, I'm not taking anything, but like obviously his behavior says otherwise. We also have the scenes where he's just like really sick because of it, because what people don't talk about enough is when someone is addicted, it's really hard to stop, not just because it's a like they are used to it, but because when the body stops taking the drug, it just goes like they start having shivers, they start having fever, so it's just like literal physical pain, and just taking the drug will just ease it out. So it's so much more complex than just saying like, oh, why don't you just stop? Like you can't really say that to an addict, and it's really heartbreaking, and it really comes to show that it's just one misuse, one like wrong curious question or experiment can really lead to a downward spiral. And this is why it's really such a impactful situation, and it's
and also this is why this movie is super important, because I feel like we see so many movies where drugs are banalized and they're just glamorized in so many movies and shows, like, you know, it's not a big deal. And it's just, I was watching this show this other day, and it's basically a show where they brings out people who have been through real experiences, and that time the experience was, they brought in people who took drugs for the first time, like literally it was one time, and they got addicted for life. And it's really crazy.
I like the relationship also between the parents and their kid. During the whole movie, I was thinking about a quote that I don't remember who said it, but I remember someone saying to me, like, a parent is as happy as their least happy kid. So even like if Steve's character was really trying to stay strong for his younger kids, but you just see the struggle he has thinking about his son, and he's out there like trying to find a solution in his head. It was impossible for it not to be a solution, because everybody was telling him like, if your son is addicted to meth, that's it, like it's impossible for him to get out of it. It's this vicious circle, and he's just out there. And then he tells his wife that if his son doesn't take it for 2 years, like his neurons are going to start regenerating and it's going to get better. And then
it's just desperation.
But and he's hanging up like on hope. And it's
stay away from drugs.
Stay away from drugs, kids.
That's the only thing that you have to remember from this book /
and watch
movie.
This movie and let us know what you think.
And even read the book if you can. It's a beautiful book. And it's definitely worth reading. I think that sums it up.
That sums it up for Beautiful Boy. Let us know what you think in the comment section.
And please like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.